In this movie, we're going to talk about creating labels with EnRoute's AutoToolpath. And to create labels, first of all, we need to have a cut list and have a cut list and DXF parts. And so for this example, we're going to use this particular cut list. And here we're going to find a couple of jobs. I see a job here called unnamed, and there are about 7 pieces in this job, and there's quite a few other pieces in the other job, example 1. So that's going to be the job we're going to use, because to create labels, you need a bunch of DXF files and a cut list that will get some information about each of the files. So to create the labels, we're going to come up here and go to come here to the File menu, go to Automatic Toolpath, and the first thing we have to do is design the labels. So we're going to go to Label Designer, and there has to be some particular label in mind that we want to create, and it has some dimensions. So for the first one, we might want to come here and go to Open, and in the EnRoute folder, and here I'm using EnRoute 6 AutoToolpath labels. That's where all these files are. I'm going to choose this 3 by 1/8 label as a default label size, and it can be any ones of the ones in this list, or you can create one of these and modify it, take one of these and modify it, or create a brand new one from scratch. Any given label will have 3 types of parts. You can have a text piece like this, a picture or a bitmap, or a label or a barcode. And the information for what's supplied here is going to come from the cut list and a few of them from EnRoute. And so what we'll do here is, in the case of these particular ones, these are things that are going to stay here every time. They're not going to change each time. So if I come here and select just one of them, we can see that this is a text attribute. It's got the file name here. If I'm worried about it fitting in a particular window, I can hit fit in window here. It'll make it fit in the center. And if I have use as placeholder checked, it will change every day based upon this data field, or every time. If I don't have use as placeholder checked, then it's going to just stay this file name every time. So that's the way you can have something be the same on every label or update every label. So here's the exact same name. Now this one we're going to say fit in width, and file name is here. And now that's always going to have this file name fit in this area. All right. Now here's the width, length, and height. Again, we're going to say fit in width. The data here, it's a placeholder, so it's changing each time. And the data from this list, and this data comes from the cut list provided by the cabinet design software or other software. This is going to give us the data sources. So I'm just going to go to each of these. I'm going to say fit and width, just to make sure each of them the data can fit in there. All right, we're going to do that for the part name placeholder, the material placeholder. All right, and now we have these 2 images. This one, if we double click it and we take a look at it, we can say this is a compass. So this is going to point the direction of the part. I'm actually going to get rid of this and not have it be the compass, and we're going to have it be the thumbnail. Okay, the thumbnail is going to show us an overview of the sheet. So we'll let it be as big as it can be. All right, and now we would have the last part over here, which is the part preview, and that's fine. We're going to leave that part preview. Now this is a barcode attribute, and it looks like the data in here doesn't really have any particular data, so you might want to have this be the part name if it's not already there. Here it looks like I already have the part name, so that might just be kind of duplicate information at this point. I think what instead I'm going to do is just get rid of this one. So now if you wanted to put a logo or something down here, that would be possible. If you wanted to have some text that says company name, then we can do that as well. So I'm going to just come here to add something. I can add text, barcode, or picture. I'm going to add text. I'm going to put SAI MFG. It's not going to be a placeholder, so this is just going to be here every time. All right, so now I've got my label designed, and I'm going to hit here, save, and now I have a label that's 3.1 label design. Now the next step is to come back here to the automatic toolpath, and we're going to go to label maker. The label designs one label and tells what data will be on the label. The label maker is going to allow us to come here to the settings, go down to label, and this provides the label format collection. And so let's come here and take a look at the 3 by 1.8 labels. So this is currently set up for a system of a sheet of labels, so I could print this many at a time. Another common thing is to use a roll type of format, and see if we have a single roll here. I'm going to go here because I've been working in inches. I'm going to go here and change this to inches. Sorry about that, but it'll allow me to understand these values better. All right, so this is width is 4 by 3. That's too big, but that shows you what a roll will be like, because we're going to print one at a time, and the 3 by 1.8 looks currently like this. So I'm just going to leave it like that. All right, and we'll notice this is 3. It has a particular label number there. Now what we're going to do is come up here, and we're going to create our AutoToolpath file. So we're going to go to the File menu, and we're going to go to AutoToolpath. Now the first thing we're going to do here is let's clear everything out that's here currently, and we're going to open a new file. Now your Setup tab is where you'll determine which program you're going to be bringing files in from. Boxster is kind of a generic one for EnRoute itself, and this Setup tab is where you determine your output files, whether you're outputting them or not, or whether you're doing a printout. You can have a layer printout for each set of parts. You can create the label output or not, and a little bit of information, including the output file name and setting. We're going to start here at the first tab, or actually first we're going to go here to Boxster, and we have to import the file. So we're just going to do this simple job. Now, if we've already run this job, or set up these particular DXF files for processing, we could just process it. But since we haven't done that yet, the very first time, we need to come here and say use Boxster, and that's going to give us in our defined layers a list of all the layers. Now I have already saved strategies in EnRoute, so we're going to come back here for one more second, and if I just create a rectangle here, I know in advance I need 3 particular toolpaths here. I need a Cutout Toolpath, so I have one toolpath here called Cutout, and it's using a 1/2 inch end mill. Maybe we're going to come here and change that to a 3/8 inch end mill. There's no feed rates in here, and so we would want to, depending upon the particular machine we're using, enter some feed rates that would be the feed rate values we want to use, and maybe an entry-exit parameter here as well. And I'm going to make it a 3D line so it plunges into the material. 1 inch length, so I'll give myself 1 inch to plunge down to the cut depth. All right, so this is going to be my toolpath, and I'm going to go to 0.76, so it goes just a little bit through a 0.75 material, if that's my material thickness. So 0.75 is my material thickness that I have in mind for this particular save strategy. I'm going to save this as Cutout, and I can come here and save one more of these. I'm going to do this with a final pass. We'll say 0.03 for this depth, and now it's going to cut this in 2 passes. I now have a final pass, so I have to include a final pass feed rate, and it's going to cut this job in 2 passes. If we go to the side of the material here, we can see what that means. It's going to cut, we have to make our material the same dimension we're looking at here. So with 0.75 material, it's going to come down and cut almost all the way through in 1 pass, and then completely cut it out in the second pass. And here you can see the entry exit that's going to occur on an angle. So that's our perimeter cut for our designs, our cabinet files, or whatever parts we're going to cut. The next thing we have to do is have a little internal fill toolpath for dados or for pocketing, and this is going to create the little tabs and the little mortise and tenons that are going to fit together, or slot and grooves, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to say 0.25 depth here for my dados. And again, it doesn't look like we have any feed rate data there. Now this is a little thinner tool. It's a 1/4 inch end mill or a 6 mil tool. So I'm going to go a little bit slower than the larger tool. We're going to save this, and this is called Pocket. And then the last kind of tool we're going to use is for drills. And if you're not sure what all parts you're going to need, or what all toolpaths, there might be a need to come in here and check out your files. So we're going to come here to the AutoToolpath files. I'm going to actually come here and take a look at one of these DXF files. And usually if you're looking for this and you are doing cabinets, a right side or a left side will have most of the layers you need. But you can see here all the different layers and each of the different types of toolpaths that might be required to toolpath those layers. So I need a perimeter cut, I need pocketing, and I need drills here. That's the 3 kind of toolpaths I need for this file. And for the drills, I'm going to do this last one here. It looks like we have a 0.25 inch drill hole center. So we're going to come here and go to drill centers. We're going to choose drill. I only have a 5mm drill, so I'm just going to use a 1/4 inch end mill here as my drill, and we're going to say that we're going to go feed rate wise here. The drills, you tend to usually go not quite as fast on the spindle speed because they're just going to burn a little hole there if you go too fast. So I'm going to do save as here now, and this is how I save my strategy. 0.25 drill centers, save. All right, now I have the 3 kind of toolpaths I need for running this job, and I can come back here to the file menu and go to AutoToolpath. I can go back to the Define Layers tab. And this is again where all of the layers are going to be here. Now, I happen to have this already done from a previous example, but I'm going to clear this out here and say use active. And now I can come here and I can say, okay, for this layer, we're going to use Cutout. Oh, I need to do one last thing here. This last toolpath that we created with the onion skin, I need to save that as Cutout with onion skin. So I have 2 perimeter cuts. One of them is going to have an onion skin. And one of them is not going to have an onion skin. So that means when we're doing a smaller part, we have the option of using a toolpath that will help to keep it in place. So I'm going to come here to the preferences, and I'm going to go to the initialization tab, and I'm going to tell it anything less than 100 square inches, or if you're in millimeters, 2540. Anything less than that is going to be a small part, and we'll get a toolpath that will help to hold it down. All right, now let's go back here again to our AutoToolpath. And we're going to come here and start this again. We're going to use the cutout for the main panel. And for the small part panel, we're going to use cutout with onion skin. For the drills, that would probably get an 8mm, so we're just going to give it a 5 here. In fact, we're just going to use a 1/4 inch drill for all of the drills. So drill drawer, 1/4 inch, drill pilot, that one we'll use at 5mm, drill shelf, 1/4 inch, route back is going to get the pocket, route is going to get the pocket, route tab is going to get the pocket, and the panel cutout again will get the cutout and onion skin. Now this process requires that whoever's doing this understand what each of these layers, what kind of contours are on them, and what kind of toolpath's applied, and that a strategy has been saved to apply to each layer name. All right. Now once all of the layer names have received a save strategy, we want to say use depth, which is going to allow EnRoute to read the depth of the position of the part in the z-axis to help with toolpathing. We're going to hit toolpath for everything we want to receive a toolpath. Nest together, which means each of the DXF files will nest together as one part. That's what nest together means. And output. And if you click at the top here, you can change what those means. And so we want to make sure these are the variables we use for this type of processing. The next thing we're going to do is come to ordering and nesting, which is the next tab up here. We're going to set our strategy order as drill, fill, and cut out. And then our priority order is strategy. So that makes sure all of our output files are in the correct order. And we're going to tell it to cut small parts first. I'm going to uncheck maintain part grouping, which will help with drills to maintain a better overall drill. All right, now I have my default material size here. I'm going to use standard nesting, 90-degree rotation, middle left of the part here. All right, so top or bottom of plate, depending upon how you're setting your surface at the machine. All right, all these parameters are set. Now, one last thing I forgot to do here, and I'm going to go backwards a step, is design depth here is for a 0.75 thick material. That's what this particular design is. And more importantly, when I save the strategies, that's the design I had in mind, 0.75. So I'm going to say here 0.75. And for the design depth here, even though it's a 1/4 inch part size, I'm going to say 0.75 for my design depth because it relates to this cutout strategy. And it's a little bit hard to figure out why you would enter a different value here, but this is going to, remember when I saved that toolpath, I went to a depth of 0.76. That means there's 0.01 difference of the design depth and the toolpath depth. And now EnRoute's going to remember that difference and apply it to every toolpath in this layer. So this will go a little bit deeper than the value being sent by KCD, just allows me to cut the part out. All right, so that's just in these two areas where I'm cutting things out. That's the only place where I do this. I'm entering a design depth of 0.75 because that was the primary depth I had in mind when I saved the strategies. All right, and then finally, here's whether you want to create an output file, whether you want to create a printout of the jobs, and whether you want to do labels. So I'm going to do labels here, and it requires a separate option for labels. And now I'm going to come here and I'm going to select my label design, which is the 3.18 labels we did. Label format collection, which is only one of those. And we're going to look here for the 3 by 1.8 label format. If it was a roll, I would say 3 by 1.8 roll. But here we did the label format. So this is something we're ready to do. Now I'm going to hit save as. We're going to call this label test. Now we have all these parameters saved and we can easily recall them without entering all this information every time. So the next job is going to be much faster as long as there's no new layers to come up with. So now I'm going to come here, and I would normally have create output files checked, and it would create an output file, and it would be ready to cut at the machine, but I'm not sure which machine is being used. So in this case, I'm just going to hit process Boxster, and I'm not going to create the output yet. And what this did is this created 2 layers for me. It's created a 3/4 millimeter layer and a 1/4 millimeter layer. All right, so as many layers that are created, you'll create your toolpaths for those. And I wanted to do this one more time, so let's come here. This time we're going to go here and we're going to tell it to print these out to a PDF. And we're going to send this to the desktop. And we'll call this label test. All right. So we'll do this one more time here. Process Boxster. It still remembered those 7 parts I had there. This is called layer print out. And we'll call this one layer print out 2. Normally those would go straight to a printer and they would show you what's happening. You know, what the printer will show you what's going to be there. So we'll just take a look at the PDF files. So here's the one called layer printout. We could see that it's just got a single part in it. Tells us what the part name is and where it is on the sheet. And here's the other one now, which is got more parts on it, and we can see a little part number, and the unnamed is the name of the DXF file. So it shows you each DXF file and where it is on the sheet. Now the other part of this is the labels that we created. So let's go here to the desktop, and here we've got 2 label files. All right, now this part of printing a label, we're going to come here and go to the label maker again. And I'm going to go to the printer settings, and if I have a label printer, I would need to set that up here and make sure that everything's set correctly. If I'm doing roll printers, it's probably landscape. If I'm doing a sheet of printer of labels, excuse me, a roll of labels, it's landscape. Sheet of labels, it's a portrait. I need to set the right paper size and everything. I'm really just going to do a PDF here so we can take a look at it. And now I'm going to come here and open up this label file. All right, and so we'll do the one for the 3/4 millimeter. Just name the file something here, and that's going to print it out for us. And now here we can see the sheet of labels that's been printed out. And so each of these labels would be on a unique label, and it tells you where on the sheet that particular label should be put. So each one of these labels here, it looks like maybe I had a couple of boxes that were over top of my bitmap. So I would need to go in there and adjust that. But at least you can see where you put each label on the part, and how to create a series of labels for an ATP job. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is have to come in here and go to Label Designer. I'm going to open this. I'll see here. Okay, so I'm just going to delete that. Looks like there's maybe a few little kind of parts there. If I just hit Control A, it shows me all the pieces. So now I got rid of those so that I can see the whole label. I'm going to save that, and if I were to run it again, still has the same parts here. To set up the machine, let's come here and see what machine we have set up here. Let's just go with this kind of a techno, and I'm going to remove the tool changer so we don't have to worry about creating drills or anything, but or setting up the tool changer. But I'm going to go here and go now to automatic toolpath. This time we'll create the output. So again, going to the desktop, let's call it test 2. And we're going to say process Boxster. This time, in addition to getting the labels, I have 2 output files ready to cut at the machine as long as the tool changer is set up properly. And I have the 2 label files that have been created. So let's go here to the label maker. All right, so let's print this one up again now. Label job design. All right. Now we can see the brand new label here, and now we got rid of those little things that were kind of covering up parts of the sheet. So here we could see the labels that were printed up. These would be taken off the label printer sheet and placed on the part here, and this shows you which part on the sheet it goes on. So there's one more little file you might want to check out here, and if they're going to use a sheet of printers, I definitely recommend a roll. If you're going to be doing this, you need a roll. But if you are going to do a sheet, there's a little program here called the Label Printer, and there's a movie available on that I'll send a separate link to. But this has been kind of an overview of how the Auto Toolpath process. This has been an overview of how the Auto Toolpath. This has been an overview of how the Auto Toolpath process works and how labels are created.